Good morning. My name is Adriana Osceola, Chair of the Kissimmee Osceola Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for joining us today on our 15-minute series as we celebrate Women's History Month. I'd like to take a moment and introduce you to Kimberly Murray. Kimberly is the Executive Director of Osceola County's Historical Society, and she will be talking to us about a few exciting things that the Historical Society has planned for Women's History Month. Hi, Kimberly. Nice to have you.
Hi. Glad to be here.
Great. We're happy to have you. Can you tell us a little about the Historical Society and what you have going on this weekend in celebration of Women's History Month?
The Historical Society has been around for 70 years, and during that time, we have grown to 3 locations and continued to present the history and to collect the history and preserve the history of Osceola County. We cover the entire county as an organization. So that is a lot to keep track of. Coming up Saturday, we'll be celebrating Women's History on one of our Living History Days at the Pioneer Village. We do this every second Saturday. We have a Living History Day at the Pioneer Village in a safe environment. People are asked to wear masks, but social distancing is able to be accommodated, and we try to make the day as special as possible. So as we focus on women's history this coming Saturday, we'll be having special activities for the young people, letting them practice some of the tasks that ladies in the past used to have to do. So while the kids may think it's fun to do laundry in a wash tub, I can assure you that back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, when women really had to do their laundry that way, it was not nearly so fun. Women's lives were pretty hard back then. Things were pretty rustic. There was not electricity. They may or may not have easy access to water, etc. So they had a lot of work to do. And if their husbands were cattlemen, their husbands may take off for 3 or 4 weeks at a time to go rounding up the cattle that were pretty much free range. And so that left the wife at home to take care of the kids, take care of the garden, take care of the livestock, take care of the house, take care of all the chores that were involved in what they might have to do. Some of the other things women might have done at that time period, and that you can see if you visit on Saturday, is be a school teacher. That was one of the jobs women could have outside of the house. Of course, there was a lot of rules. The women had to be single, they had to live in a certain place, they had to behave in certain ways. But that was one of the few options that women had in those days. Additionally, one of the ladies you'll meet is Mrs. Cadman. Mrs. Cadman was one of the first settlers in the area we now call Narcoossee, and she came with her husband, Colonel Cadman. And when she originally arrived in Florida, she was not pleased. She met some members of the Seminole tribe and kind of got uncomfortable and was not very happy. However, from the time she came in 1888 through her lifetime, she became much more involved in the community and was quite involved with the building with her husband of the St. Luke's and St. Peter's Church in Narcoossee, which we now have as a replica in our Pioneer Village. She started a school for children in the stable at the citrus ranch that they had, the citrus farm, and up until the 1930s, when she eventually passed away, she was known as a citrus farmer. So she became quite involved in the community.
Well, that's very impressive. I'd like to think that that was the start of our school district in Osceola County with the women that you're talking about today.
It was somewhat. I don't know if she gets all the credit, but she was a key figure. They were one of the more affluent families in the community, and so with being affluent, they carried the responsibility of helping develop the social system within the community.
Well, that sounds like a very exciting event that you're having on Saturday. I think the kids that are going to be visiting the Historical Society are not going to be complaining as much about their current chores at home after they see you on Saturday. How can families come visit you? How can they purchase tickets, and what is the price to attend?
They can purchase tickets online or at the door. It's $8 per adult, and with each adult, 2 children can come in free. Also, there are coupons on Groupon. Folks with an EBT card can get a discount that has to do with Museums for All campaign that we're doing, which is a nationwide campaign. And there are a few other coupons around and about. I'm not sure what all of them are. They're still floating about. But the price is very reasonable for what you get. And when you come to the village, you get to see 16 different structures. You get to meet the head of the train depot, the conductor there, who will tell you about how trains were critical to transportation in the early days. You'll see the citrus packing plant, which is part of the Cadman homestead, and you'll meet many other people that were in the community when you come out. We try to make it fun for the kiddos, as I said. I believe we'll be making butter. We'll have games for them to participate in, but they'll get to see that the games kids played in the early 1900s were quite a bit different than the video games kids play today.
Well, Kimberly, it sounds like a great weekend that you have planned and a great commemoration of all the women who came before us in Osceola County. Thank you for taking the time today to connect with us and let us know about the Historical Society in Osceola County.
It was my pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, we're going to continue on today, coming from our really incredible women from the 1800s and 1900s that were in Osceola County to someone who's a true legend today in our community, Linda Goodwin Nichols. She is a true pioneer for women in the business community, and we're so grateful to have her with us here today. Linda served twice as the chair of the Kissimmee Osceola Chamber, and thank you for being here, Linda.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I should say that to you. This is your home more so than mine. I just want to take a moment to sit with you and, no introduction really needed, but to talk to you about how you kind of put a place setting for women in the business community here in Osceola County, and talking about women who came before you even, such as your mentor, Brownie Wise. So tell us a little about your career in business in Osceola and how you really did pave the way for women in business here.
Well, it was pretty lonely in the 70s to be in business, whether you were male or female, because in the early 70s, the economy had just fallen out of the bottom had fallen out of the economy in Osceola County. So it was not the most exact time to open a business, but we did. And it was lonely because there wasn't a lot out there, but it was, we found out early on that we had to be involved in the community. That was the most important thing that we were going to do. And I was just reading some stuff about my relationship with Brownie, and I realized that the first social event I had in Osceola County in Kissimmee was the Tupperware home party in my neighborhood.
And Brownie was there?
No, she wasn't there. This was after she retired because it was in the 70s. But I actually got my first listing there. So it just, and then I had the pleasure in the next couple of years of course, meeting her and becoming very close to her until she passed away.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about Brownie and how she started her career here and how she mentored you and how she really was the pioneer?
She was, she was an amazing woman. She really, really was. And, she came from a tough background. She was a single mom. And even back in the 50s, when she came and she went to work for Tupperware, and she actually brought Earl Tupper the idea of removing Tupperware from the retail scene and coming up with the Tupperware home party. Wow. And that was her first introduction to Tupperware. And of course, it grew rapidly because her desire was to have women be able to stay in the home, raise their families, but make extra money. And, for many decades, Tupperware home parties were just a really great thing. And so that was her passion. And, you know, she left Tupperware in the late 50s and she started being a correspondent with Better Homes and Gardens. And that's when I met her, is when she was doing, you know, she was a consultant for Better Homes and Gardens. And I met her through a friend of mine who actually was one of my agents and lived near her. And we had lots of lunches together. And she didn't leave the house much at that time. But we brought in lunches and had lunches with her and sometimes supper. But she used to have this great party on the weekends. Sometimes it was Friday, sometimes it was Saturday. And she made an incredible recipe. It was called Florida Punch. And I don't think anybody has that recipe today.
Could we try for our next chamber party?
Yeah, we'll try it. So, and she was an amazing woman that was just absolutely full of marketing information and knowledge, and she loved to share it. And, you know, I think that the first thing that she taught me was compassion, consideration, and love. And the most important thing was patience and perseverance.
And you can do business with those values. It doesn't have to be all driven by financial wants and needs, and it's truly compassion and love and caring about your community.
Absolutely. And she focused on, she said, if you believe in your product and know your product inside and out, then you honestly can relay that product to your clients and customers.
And she made Tupperware really a household name.
Absolutely.
We still say to this day, you can use any kind of other things to store your food and you're calling it Tupperware.
That's true.
That's right.
That's true. Everybody probably has a form of Tupperware in their house for sure. But she was just a grand lady, and she just was, and she loved Kissimmee, and she loved living on the lake when she was with Tupperware in the Tupperware house, the mansion out on the island. And I was reading something yesterday that said, I remember talking about there's 4 or 5 or 6 very tall Washingtonian palms on the lakefront at where her house was. And those are used for boaters still today to find their way back to the lakefront.
Really?
So every time you turn around and you look, you see something of Brownie, around in the area. Just, she was just a wonderful person and a great friend, and got me through a time that I could what she taught me, I've been able to bring forward for almost 50 years.
Where do you think she got the courage to really be this voice of business in a time where really it was males in the workforce?
She was very focused and very strong with her beliefs. And it would take somebody very difficult, very great to be able to talk her out of something when she set her mind to that this is the way it should be.
And how did she change the way that you ran your business?
Well, totally. She
Wow.
totally, absolutely. I mean, I came from Lakeland, and I'd never been in the real estate business. And it was just, she taught me the basics. You got to know your product. You got to know how to market your product. You have to have confidence in your product, and you have to have patience and perseverance.
Absolutely.
And if there's anything that any woman, man, that can do to run a business with that foundation, it's going to work.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
And the generation now who's really celebrating Women's History Month and saying how incredible it is to be in positions where we can have leadership positions, where we sit on boards. At the end of the day, we do thank folks like you, Linda, women like you, who we rose up on your back, who helped us get there. And it's amazing to hear from you. I always say you're really the matriarch of Osceola County business, that you also had help, that you also came on the back of somebody else, and Brownie really guided you, and we can continue doing that for generations. And it's just so impressive to hear about it. And I think celebrating women's history, you're saying there's a reason for it. You might feel like we are in the room a lot more often, we're getting paid a little bit more, but really it took a long time to get there, and it took women like you and women like Brownie to get us where we are today, and we still have a lot of work to do.
I mean, if you're thinking that was back in the 50s,
Yes.
she was with Tupperware. That was several years ago.
And women were becoming financially independent because of her idea.
That's right. She brought
Really
the Tupperware
incredible.
home. She brought Jubilee to Osceola County, which was probably the biggest tourist thing that came in the 50s, because and it continued through the 70s and the 60s and 70s too. So, it was, she was a pioneer.
And for those of us who have never met Brownie, I know she's written a book or two, so we can learn three. Okay, so we can look up Brownie Wise, and we can get some of those books that she wrote about her experience and her growing up.
Actually, I've got one that I want to share with you, and there's several. I can't wear her glasses on, but anyway, she's written 3 other books, and they're absolutely incredible. But this was the first one that she wrote, and it's called Best Wishes. And so this is the first book I wrote. It was written back in 1957.
Wow.
And it was the first one she published. So I want you to read it and enjoy it.
Thank you, Linda. I love it. I definitely will. I appreciate it. How to put your wishes to work. I think that's something that women in the workplace are talking about a lot right now, and just empowerment in general. And I thank you. And you're just an incredible, phenomenal person.
You're so sweet.
Yeah. And thank you for being interviewed with us today at the Chamber.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you all for tuning in with us today. Anything you would like to know also about Linda Goodwin Nichols or Brownie Wise, you can reach out to us at the Chamber. We can have a list of these books for you that are available, that you can find them on your own. And thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for KUA for sponsoring today's and this week's series. I hope you all have a great morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.